There is something I did not understand when I received my residence permit in Europe. In Europe, getting residence permit is not the victory. Keeping it is the real victory. While I was enjoying the approval, living in euphoria, it didn't last. Because in Europe, time moves faster than anything you can think of. It doesn't take any time for it to expire. Before you know it, it is another renewal. Just about a year, and it runs so fast. When I saw the expiry date, I ignored it. I said, come on, this is still far. I got relaxed. You know what? Slowly, it got there. And that has always been the case. One day, I received a mail reminding me that the expiry date was fast approaching. I started putting my documents together once again. In Europe, official envelopes are not mistakes. It is either a reminder or a warning or outright action being taken. So once you receive an official envelope, you know that something is at stake. It's a rat race. The waiting, the uncertainties, the fear of rejection crept in once again. I told myself I would not panic again. I started gathering every document, every paper became very important again. Proof of work, of course, bank documents, insurance, every paper became important. In the process of gathering my papers, I became very careful. In the office, no complaints, stayed longer hours, not because I enjoyed doing that. When you lose your job, it affects your renewal of residence permit. So I became more careful in every undertaking in the office. And suddenly, I would say Europe happened to me. My job contract was not renewed. I became very apprehensive because in Europe it's very important. Without constant job, your renewal becomes difficult. So it was a dilemma for me. I didn't know what next to do. In the process, a friend called me who has been in Europe longer than I, and I told him what happened. He laughed lightly and told me, welcome to Europe. I was surprised that he laughed and welcomed me. He said, of course. He said, in Europe, stability is not permanent. He continued, stability is gained. Stability is not guaranteed. It is maintained. I started hunting for another job here and there, attending interviews everywhere, of course, in that panic mode. After a while, I got a little job. It wasn't exactly what I needed at that moment, but I had to manage it because it was lower than what I had. But I had to grab it because I needed my renewal. It was that period. I needed it. There was no way my residence permit would have been renewed without having a stable job. So I had to accept that offer. When I signed the contract, I wasn't happy, I wasn't sad. I was expressionless. And of course, you should know that the bureaucrats, they don't care. I remember vividly in Cyprus, whether you're in school or not in school, you have to attach yourself to a school. You pay your school fees in that school, and you may not be attending lectures for you to get an approval. That is just what it is. At the end of the day, because residence permits last for 1 year, most of the time, September to September, as the case may be. So as it's expiring, they move to another school and do a fresh registration. Come on. Europe is challenging. Technically or otherwise, everybody in Europe lives under invisible deadlines. Everybody is under pressure. one day I had to go to immigration office again. The same office, the same location, same faces, but of course with different emotions. And I saw a very young Nigerian who just got his residence permit the first time. He was calling his family in Nigeria, celebrating. I smiled. He thought he had arrived, but his journey in Europe just started. Anyway, it's good to enjoy little winnings. It's exciting, but you don't have to overdo that, because the greater things lie ahead with all the challenges, with all the bumps. When it got to my turn, I gave my documents to the officer. Of course, the same routine. He was expressionless. He barely looked at me. He went through my papers, stamped some of them, and he said, "Processing. Come back later." So the waiting period started again. It is a system. It is a process. I knew delays were normal. I knew that uncertainties were parts of it. Fear was optional, because it is all about papers, documentations, following due process. The officer told me, I just nodded and left. I was not emotional, because of course I had learned that in Europe, survival is not emotional. And the residence permit is the structure most people underestimate. I just wish somebody had told me this earlier. I would have been more prepared. I would have been more organized. That is why I am telling you right now, get all your documents together before leaving your country. Anything you need to put together, put it together. In Europe, you don't jump the process. You must follow the process. I remember the first time I landed in Heathrow Airport for a 2 weeks function from Nigeria. I needed to buy a new SIM card. That was a procedure. That was a long queue. A Nigerian man doesn't want delays. I jumped the line. You know what? I was surprised they noticed it. They left my friend and I, 2 of us. We just came. They left both of us there until it got to our turn. See, the system hardly makes mistake. They are very thorough and they are not emotional when it comes to doing it the right way. So residence permit is not just a paper, it is a cycle. Arrival, approval, maintenance, renewal, pressure, stability. And if you understood that cycle early enough, you will survive. But if you didn't, Europe will teach you the hard way. Now the summary. What you got to learn from this? You're already in Europe, you have a job. In that job, do it well. Be consistent in your character. Be positive minded. Avoid troubles. Put your documents together. Do not be careless. Every document matters. Everything you need to do to put your documents together, start on time. When you receive letter telling you have to start your renewal process, you start immediately. You don't have to delay the process. It is very, very important so that you don't get stuck halfway. And of course, you don't lose your job. In case it happens that you lost your job, you need to put yourself together. It is not the end of the world, because psychologically you have to deal with these things. No matter how careful you are, once in a while it happens to 1 or 2 persons. If you lost your job and it's within the period of renewal, what should you do? What are you supposed to do? Put yourself together. Panicking will not solve it. Being emotional will not solve it. Do the right thing by being practical. Start hunting for another job. And in the process, if you believed God, be prayerful. If you didn't believe, be positive minded. Because positive mindset rules. It is very, very important. But the good thing is that once you are living a very good lives, once you're being careful with your documentations and you have a good character, testimonial in your office, there's every likelihood that you get your approval. In other words, live well and live ready. That is the essence of putting together this once you're in Europe. And you'll be sure that every year you get your residence permit renewed without much hassles. Please comment, like, share, and subscribe to get me going. And thank you for always being there watching. As I always say, God bless you. I have seen the hand of God in my life, and I know He is real. He handles everything, no matter how difficult it is.